All right, we're back. We are COMP123 in the summer 2017 semester at Centennial, and we are week 13, part 2 of our broadcast. We're talking about the calculator and fixing those pesky calculator buttons so they all work with only one event handler. How do we do that? What do I mean? Well, we have this calculator right here, right? But can you imagine I have all these buttons, and if I made individual event handlers for each one of them, what a pain. And they're all related. Like, for example, I have all these buttons. Couldn't I just use one event handler to handle them all? How do I do that? Well, first of all, let's use one. We'll use the 7. If I double click on the 7, it creates an event handler called 7 button. But that doesn't make any sense. Let's refactor this one. So we're going to refactor, rename this thing. We're going to rename. This is one way of doing it, by the way. I'll show you another way in a second. So this 7 button.click, we're going to call this the calculator. I'm refactoring calculator button click event. Now this is not renaming by yourself by hand. This is right-clicking like I showed you, and up here where it says rename. Okay, you need to do it this way. If you just do it by hand, it'll break your code like normal. Okay, so this is my calculator button click. What is this thing? This is shared event handler. That's what it is for the calculator buttons. And we want to not including, we don't want to include for now the operator buttons. Okay, I'm going to show you, we're going to include them all and then we're going to remove them. All right, up here in 0.3, we added the calculator click shared event handler. We did. We're not quite done yet, so I'm not going to add it into GitHub yet. So this calculator button click event, right? Right now it's empty. But if I go back to my calculator form, here's my calculator form. Take a look. And if I look at my properties, here's my properties for my calculator form. Now look at this thing. I have my click event, and it says calculator button click. When I renamed it, it accepted it. Okay, cool. Well, I want to get all the rest of them, and this is what I can do. If I click on my clear button, and I shift left click everything, one by one, not including the 7 key, what I can do is I can select all the buttons. Here's all the buttons. And where my click event is, I can pull down the existing method. Now, all the buttons are going to go to, let's get rid of this for a second. I don't need these anymore. All the buttons are going to go to this event. Why? Well, I don't need to use them all, right? Number one, I don't need to. I don't have to make different events for the same button, like all the buttons. Doesn't make sense. I'm clicking a button. I want my calculator to use one event to handle everything. Okay. That's number one. 2. Okay, cool. So I did that, but how do I know which button clicked? Well, you know what? We can do a really nifty trick. We can use something called debug. This is new. Debug dot writeLine. And I want to put in there, you know, a calculator button was clicked to see that we can detect when a button is being clicked, right? Now here's a problem. It says, hey, I don't understand what you mean by debug. Well, of course you don't, because debug is a class that I have not included. It actually belongs to the using system.diagnostics library. I'm going to just use that one. My quick hit. It's going to fix it, and it's going to add on the top using systems.diagnostics, right? And so what this allows me to do is, remember, we haven't had an opportunity for us to even use a console, right? There is no console anymore. It's just Windows application, right? And this gives me a little place when I'm debugging where it's going to show me some output, any output I want, as long as it's a string. Okay, cool. So I want to do this. Let's try this out. So I'm going to run. When I run my code, I wait for 3 seconds. Notice on the top right, it says 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it goes. So I can time it properly. There we go. So there's my thing. Now notice on the event, if I click the C button, I get this little readout here. Look at this little thing here that says, a couple things happen. I have this gesture that's been generated, okay? A gesture is a click, the actual event, right? And then notice down here, a calculator button has been clicked. This was what I wrote in here in my debug.writeline. So you can put whatever program output you want in here to give you feedback. This is part 2 of the debugging process. So one is you can make breakpoints, and the other part is over here, you can use debug.writeline, system diagnostics, to go through your code and output stuff different places in your code. Okay? Debug.writeline. Okay, let's go back. So if I click the 9, take a look, I get a gesture and an actual output, and I can keep going. So what's happening is, if you notice that every single time I click a button, all right, every time I click a button, it goes to this method, right, and it generates a new sender object. This sender object is regenerated, right, as well as a new event object, right? So the key is everything gets sent into my sender object. Whichever button was clicked, that's the identity. The identity is saved in here, which means I can do something like this. First of all, I don't need my debug anymore. I know how to do this. I can kind of comment it out, right, just for debugging purposes, and I can take out that debug statement later. But for now, I need something like this. I need a button, right? Here's my button. I need a button to be called the, calculator, or maybe we'll call it the calculator button. Calculator. Here's my calculator button. And I want to I can make a new button reference, but why not refer to the sender object, right? The problem is the sender object is not a button. It is a type object, right? That's incompatible. So there's 2 ways I can handle this. I can cast it as a button like this, which take the error, or I can use something called downcasting. And I can use a special keyword called as button, which basically turns sender into a button. Okay? This is called downcasting. Okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm making a reference, because if sender is just an object, it will never give me code hinting that refers to it as a button. That means I can't use all the properties. I don't have access to all the properties of a button. And I need to, right? Because guess what? My buttons all have text values that I want. I want to have the 7, the 8, the 9. Those are all in the text value of the button, right? Well, inside here now, I do have a value. I can go calculator button.text. Okay, that's interesting. So I can do something like this. I can say, well, my result text box, right? Text, the text value of my result text box is plus equals to my calculator button, right, .text. You do that. No if statements, no switch statement. I just read the text value of my button, and I slam it into my result text box right away. Okay, 2 lines. Much more efficient than doing if, else if, else if, else if, or a switch statement. We'll still need to do those things, but not yet. We'll talk about why we need to do them. Let's test now. Okay, so we're going to run it. So what does this mean? It means when the button comes up after a couple seconds, and if I click the C, oh man, what the heck? It's way over here. I never tested the result text box before, so I never knew where it was going to hang out. I don't want my C. First of all, C and all these other buttons here, like this, anything I type now will come up. Look. Even the dot over and over again. That doesn't make any sense. That's never going to be translated into a number. I need to do some validation. I need to stop the user from being able to press some of these over and over again, right? For now, take a look though. I have a problem. All my stuff is happening on the left side of my text box. I don't want that. I want it to be on the right, right? Just like a regular calculator. And I want it to be on the bottom right. Okay, how do I do that? Well, I go back to my design, and I click on my result text box. I go to my properties. I'm going to go to my property windows, not the lightning bolt, but the property. Scroll all the way down where it says text align. Notice this text align left by default. And now I want to do text align right. Unfortunately, even though it's a multi-line text box, I cannot choose down. I can only choose right, which make us question whether we're going to do this alignment as it is. If you look at the anchor element, here's the anchor element. Anchor is top left, right? Top left corner of the screen is what the anchor is. I can take these anchor elements away, and again, it'll float somewhere in the middle. I press play. Property value is not valid, right? We're going to go back and see that for a second. Here's my text box, right? And now my 9 starts at the top right, right? And it kind of goes from the right, but I can still add whatever I want in there, and I got to stop that from happening, right? So we're getting there. So what does this mean? Give me my details. It says that the calculated form.cs cannot be modified in design while building or debugging. Okay, cool. I don't know what happened there, but that's fine. All right, cool. So we did this piece, but what I want to do is this, okay? When I enter stuff, right, I don't, first of all, it doesn't make sense that my calculator buttons and my operators are all in the same event handler. Maybe I should break them up. Maybe I should make one event handler for my operators, because operators are like plus, minus, you know, that kind of stuff. Plus, minus, plus, times, divide, backspace, clear. All those like kind of operations I can do. My buttons are different. There's a different form for my buttons, right? So what I want to do here in my calculator form is make another event handler, right? But instead of making it automatic, I'll type it by hand just to show you how to do it, right? Here's the event handler I want you to make. Private, void. We're going to call this the operator button underscore click. We need to pass in an object of type sender, right? And event args, right? Now we can call it event, but unfortunately event's been taken. That's why you can't use event. And that's why Microsoft uses E, which I don't like. But we could do it. And then we need to give it a bit of a body. And what this is the shared, this is a shared event handler for the operator buttons of the calculator. Okay, and what I'm going to do up here is where I have this piece, serve.4, I'll say created shared event handler. Wow, I'm really bad today. For the operator buttons. Real. Okay, I'm going to put that up on home changes. Put that in there. And lots of stuff we did today already. That's how it goes. Okay, so that's done. So I've got my shared event handler, but right now it doesn't point, and nothing points to it. Notice there's 0 references. 0 references means nothing's using it. It's a method that's not being used. How do we make it useful? Go back to my calculator buttons. And now I want to restart highlighting these other buttons again. So shift-click all the operators, including the plus minus, but not the decimal. The decimal is really part of the number, right? So I'm excluding that, right? Now what I want to go is in properties under the lightning bolt, where you have the calculator button click, I want to read select, instead of the calculator button click, I want to select ours, which is my operator button click, my new event handler that I made. Okay. Now these things, the operator buttons, point to my shared event handler, which is this one. Notice now I have 8 references. Okay. So why? Why do I want to separate them? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, this one would be for calculator buttons, like for the actual numbers, and this is for the operators, because we may have to do some operations here. Just like before, we need a button reference. So button, we're going to call this operator button, right, which is equal to, just like we did before, the sender as a button. So we're still downcasting here, right? And that's all we're doing. We're just capturing the button right now. Okay, we're not doing anything with the button yet, but we're just capturing it. Okay. All right, cool. So now if I run my code, you can see that if I hit the regular buttons, they all come out, but not these buttons, nothing works, right? Because I've disabled them right now, right? They're being captured, but I'm just not doing anything with them. Here's where I want to fix right now. I want to fix this problem, right? This is a problem. I should only be able to have this work once, right? I should be able to press decimal as many times as I want. That's incorrect, right? So how do I do this? So in my mind, I got to set up a flag so that when I press the decimal button, right, if I plus it one time, it keeps track. Now, there's many ways to do this. You can also search to see if the decimal already exists inside of your result text box. Search the results. If it exists, don't add another one, right? However, I want to set up a flag. I want to do it another way. So what do I mean by a flag? A Boolean variable that keeps track of whether it's been selected or not. Okay. This means we need to format our calculator form a little bit differently. All right, so going up to the top, my calculator form is a class as well, right? So I can do the same things I normally do with the classes. I can do something like this. This is my private instance variables. We did before. Here are my public properties. Here are my constructors. I only have one, but I could have more. And this is the first one we have. // This is the main constructor for the calculator form class, right? Okay, now we have some public instance variables. So the private instance variables that I want is a private Boolean called is decimal clicked. Okay, is decimal clicked. And of course, I want to set up a property for it, right? So I'm going to do the automatic property declaration syntax and then modify it. So I'm going to go prop. I'm going to go make it a bool. Call it is decimal clicked, right? And then down inside here, modify these parts so I can customize my getter and setter. I'll say return this dot underscore is decimal clicked. Sorry, Winston. I know you don't like the underscores. I got to play it up again. Come on, man. I don't have anything else to complain about. I got to complain about something. This dot underscore is decimal. It's not that anyone listens anyway. Value. All right, here we go. And then here we go, right? Public properties. I got my public property, which is decimal clicked, and my is decimal clicked private instance variables. Again, people, for whatever reason, in your assignment number 4, they made this and they made this, but there was the quick way, and there's no link between the two for some reason. It was completely useless. All right, so let's continue. So we've got this, and what I want to do is something like this. If, and hear me out here, if the dot exists, right? If I'm choosing the dot right here, then I don't want to do this. In fact, I don't want to do anything if it's already been selected. Okay. Let's see if I can figure out the logic here. So if, right, my calculator button dot text is equal to dot, right? What does this mean? It means that, well, I want to check. I read it the long way. Here's my other if statement. Help me out here. I want your help here. Okay, if my this dot is decimal clicked, if that's true, if decimal's already clicked, then I want to, well, it's already clicked, right? So I want to return. I don't want to do anything. What does return mean? Return is a break in the execution flow, right? Whoever called this method, calculator button click, it's going to go back there. So if I clicked on it, whoever was just going to basically get out of this method, because I don't want to do anything if this is true, right? But this can be written nicer, right? This can be written nicer. Could I not write it like this? Could I not say something like in one line? Like this. By the way, there's many ways to do this properly. Could I not do, so if both these are true, right, then return. That's the same thing, isn't it? I'm just saving lines of code. So if my calculator button text is equal to dot and this is decimal clicked, if it's true, it's already been clicked, then return. Otherwise, add it on, right? Well, this isn't really going to work, right? We're close, but we're not quite done. What I mean by that is if I go here and I try this out, right? 1, 2, 3, and if I go 3 dot 3 dot 3 dot, well, it's checking, but the problem is that I never set it to false, right? I never set it to true, not officially, right? So I want to do that. I want to set the value of my the decimal, is decimal clicked, to false when my form loads the first time. Now I'm thinking, that means that I got to refactor and add, here's the 5, right? Added the form load event handler, right? And to add the form event handler, right, you go to the back of the form like this, and you double click. And there's the calculator form load event. That's the default event, right? It is. This is the event handler for the load event. So when the form loads, this triggers whenever only for the first time. Okay. The next time it comes and loads again, like let's say if you minimize it and came back up, it wouldn't trigger. Only the first time, right? If you wanted to trigger every time it kind of loads up, then you have to use another event called activate, form activated. All right. So this one, what I want to do is something like this. I want to say, well, this dot is decimal clicked. Well, I want to set that to false by default. Right? I want to say that, well, the decimal is not clicked at the beginning when I first load my calculator, right? All right, let's put that into Team Explorer. I did one of these. I kind of added form load events. Oops, to my Team Explorer. To my Team Explorer. There we go. And this is cool. It doesn't work exactly right yet because, you know, I'm not making it true, right, that it's been clicked. I can't do it here because this is testing to see that it is true already. So this isn't going to go here. It has to go somewhere else. And it's almost like I got to do it down here. It's almost like I got to do this whole line again, right? And hear me out why there's different ways to do this, right? I could make an if-else statement, or I could make it that if it's true, if I get by this point, that means that the is decimal clicked is false. One of these has to be false, right? And first of all, I'm checking to see if this is false. Okay, question. Which one should I put first? Think about it, right? I'm checking for this is the text box. This is this, text is this. But what I'm really looking for is, hey, is the decimal clicked, right? If the decimal is already clicked, right, then I want to check this, right? Because if this is clicked, then I can go in here and return, right? So what I want to do is something else. I want to put this, just order, right? It's the one you want to be clicked first, checked first. And the more often that this is what I want to check first, then the dot. Right? So say, is this clicked? That's the first condition I want to check. Yes? Cool, now check this one. Otherwise, don't even bother. Don't even bother checking the second one, right? The other way around, I have to check both, right? It's actually faster program execution because think about it. If I check this one, I don't know if this one is all right, right? If I check this one, I know that I've already satisfied one condition. Now I can check the other condition, right? All right, cool. So this is what this is. Now, the reason why I'm not putting an else in here, right, or breaking this up into two lines, is because this, if this condition is true, it never comes here, ever, right? So now I'm going to say something like this. If this is true, then I want to add it in, right? I want to add this thing in, this result text box dot text. I want to do this. But hold on a second. I already have that here. If I put that here, is it only for this, right? I'm duplicating again, right? And it's almost like, do I even have to even do this, right? If the calculator button text is true, well, what I really want to do here is I want to add, I don't want to do this again, but I want to mark it as having been clicked. So I want to say something like this. This dot is decimal checked is equal to true. That I want to do because this will allow me to have this check happen so I can't add the decimal in twice. Different ways of writing this, guys. Definitely, right? All right, cool. I like this. All right, let's see if I can test it and if it'll work. So run it. If it doesn't break, nice ideas, but we don't know if it's going to run until we test it. All right, so we click on 9.3. Only once, right? So that solved that problem. Does everyone understand what I did? I have to stop from the user from using this. They can only have one. Otherwise, when I try and translate or convert the string that I have in my result text box into a number, it's going to fail, right? Because I can't have more than one dot in my number. All right, let's fix something else now. We've got that part working. But what I want to do now is I want to change an operator. Whenever I press the C button, I want the entire thing to reset, right? So I want to, reset the form. In fact, there's a problem that I have here. I don't have a 0 starting off with my calculator. And when my calculator is running, my calculator should have a 0 first. That's weird. Because if I put a 0 and if I touch a button like 8, then it'll say 0, 8. I don't want that to happen. How do I fix that? Okay, let's try this out. So first of all, I want to make a new function. I want to detect that the C button has been chosen. And if the C button's been chosen, I want to try and clear everything up. All right? So let's try this out. Inside here, inside my operator click event handler, right? I want to create a switch statement. And I'm switching on operator button dot text. So whatever the text value is of my operator button is going to be my switch. Right? I don't care about the default case right now. I want to make a case. Oops. I want to make a case. I did that earlier today too. A case that says if the case is a C, then I want to, here's my condition. I want to call a new event, a new method called clear. Notice it's a private method. I don't have this method yet. Right? Notice I don't have this method, but I know this is what I want to do. Why wouldn't I just write the clear path in here, all the lines of code in here? Why don't I just write it in there? Because it's bad form. Remember, a method does one thing. That's all it does. If I wrote by the default all the implementation in here, it wouldn't do just one thing. It would do a bunch of things. This calls other methods that do one thing, right? That's this method's ability. This method basically manages the operator buttons, right? That's what this method's job is. If I write the implementation here, it won't manage the buttons anymore. It'll implement the button details. I don't want that. So good thing is I don't have this thing, but Microsoft provides a quick way of writing it. I can generate the method, right? Right here, automatically, right? If I write it, if it doesn't exist, I can generate it. And of course, I want to do that. This is the private clear method. It resets / clears the calculator. Okay. Well, what do I want to do with this thing? Of course, I got to go up here and say something like 0.6. Added the private _ clear method. Right? Do this one right now, just so I don't forget. Now down in here, right, in the clear method, you can see that this clear method is not implemented yet. And what I want to do is actually do a couple things. Oh man, look what I did here. The calculator form load is decimal click false, and I want to do that in my click method. I don't want to duplicate. You know what? I'm going to call my clear method from inside my load method, right? That makes more sense. So here, I want to take this line, cut it, put it in here. Then in here, call the this._clear method to clear it up. So call the clear method when the form loads, right? So it clears up the form, makes it ready for me, right? And then I'm also going to call it here, right? Whenever I press the C. But the clear method doesn't just do this. It doesn't just do is decimal clicked. It also sets the value of the result text box to 0. Right? Clears it up. It makes that 0. So it looks like 0 in a calculator, right? And it looks like this now. If I run it, when my calculator launches, it looks like this, 0, right? But I have a problem, a new problem, right? If I type in other stuff now, it adds the 0 in front. And I don't want that. I want to get rid of that 0. So if there's a 0 and there's only a 0, and I start typing something else, I want to get rid of it, right? Now, there's some problems, right? What if I type like 0.0? You know, like, for example, if I clear it, and if I type 0, you know, .0, I should be able to do that too. Not 0.0, but definitely 0.03, let's say. I should be able to type that in too. So that's a problem. I got to differentiate between if it's the first 0, if it's the 0 that I want to type, right? So if there's nothing else, just a 0, and I press a 9, and if it's not another 0 that I'm typing, I change the 0 into the 9, right? Otherwise, this is how the calculator works, right? I want to make sure that it works. It feels like a regular calculator. And this isn't the way a regular calculator works right now. I got a problem. I got to fix it. All right, how do I do that? So there's some logic involved, right? So first I set the text to 0. And then, okay, well, here's my calculator button. I got to detect if it's already a 0. So I've passed these tests, right? Here's this. If the button is a 0, if calculator button, this is inside my calculator button click event, right? Calculator button dot text is equal to 0. If it's exactly equal to 0, and there's nothing in front of it, right? Well, then I don't want to plus equals this. I just want it to equal whatever it is, right? So I want to say result text box text is equal to calculator button dot text, right? Not plus equals. So it's going to replace, not add to, not concatenate. But this presents a problem, right? First of all, I can't do both. I got to do an else. The other one or the other. If it's not 0, if it's something else, I do want to add it in, right? I do want to do this if it's not 0. Okay. But here's the rub. What if I'm pressing 0? So if I'm already pressing 0 and it's already a 0 there, right? I don't want to do this, right? If I'm already pressing 0, I want to keep the 0, right? But if I press anything else, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, whatever, I want to replace. Okay. So remember what I'm testing. I'm not testing for the 0 first because that's the odd condition. I'm testing for if I'm pressing 0. So if my calculator button dot text is equal to 0, yeah, cool. That's what I'm testing. But I'm also testing to see if my result text box is 0 already, right? So and result text box dot text is equal to 0. So both conditions got to be true in order for me to reassign. Otherwise, if it's something else other than these two things, then add. Everyone understand that? So calculator button is the button that I'm pressing on the calculator. If it's 0 already, right, and the result text box is 0, right, Well, hold on a second. Does that make sense? If it's 0 already, not equal to 0, right? I want to say if it's not equal to 0, because if it's 0, then that would be bad, right? I don't want to do this. I want to do this if it's 0, right? If it's not equal to 0, then check this. Then check if result textbox.text is equal to 0. Why this first? Because that's the first condition. I have to have both those conditions for it to be true. Therefore, I should check this one first, because this one is always going to be true, right? Okay. Check it out. See if it works. I know you guys are freaking out, but this is only the little stuff on the calculator, guys. Then you might think, oh, it's easy, right? Let's check this. So if I check a 9, 9 replaces 0, right? 8, 7, 6, 2, 0, still works. Dot, 0, 3, no dots, 6, 9. I can make a pretty long, thing here, right? Pretty good. I clear it, goes back to 0, and if I press 0, oh man, oh man, oh man, the heck? That's not what I wanted. Maybe I mean this. If it's equal to 0 and this is true, then replace with the 0. See what I'm saying? It takes a little bit of work to figure out the logic. Let's see if that works now. And we may have to do something else as well. So, all right, so again, 9. Oh, wow, man, that's not cool. That's not doing it, right? So what do I want? So let's think about this now. So if my calculate button, if I'm pressing 0 and the result text box is 0, right? Then I want to add to it. Well, that's not true. I want to do this. If that's true. If this is true, I want to do this. Right? Make sense? Because both zeros, I want to just replace. I want to add. Right? If it's both 0. Or I want to replace. But how about if it's a 9, right? So if this is true and this is true, then add. No, if it's 0 already, then, and if it's not this, right? Then so I need another condition. You see where I'm going? Because I need all 3, right? I need the condition where, it's not an else, but an else if. So else if, right? Okay. And by the way, there's other ways to do this. By the way, another student suggested another way. It's even better than this. My calculator button.text. If my calculator button.text, sorry, if my result text box.text, that's the one I want. Result text box.text is equal to 0. How about that condition? Well, if it's equal to 0, then I want to make it equal. So this is the one I want, right? Hold on. We're going to get to this. Don't worry, guys. We will get to this. And then else, if it's anything else other than that, by itself, then we want a plus equal. Is that what we want? Hold on. A lot of conditions for like a little thing. Maybe we can cut this down somehow. Remember, it's all if, else if, else if. You got to cut it down, right? So let's think about the logic here. Calculator button.text. Let me press 0 and the result text box is already 0. Then I want to replace. That's what it means, right? Okay. However, if the result text box is 0, right? And it's another thing. It's not this. It's not the calculator button.text is 0. Something else like 9, right? If this condition is true, then replace. Something's wrong. What is wrong? It's an or, right? It's this or this to do the same thing. Look, same thing's happening, right? So it's this condition or this condition to do this thing, right? Else, if it's not one of these, right, then replace or add to. No, this is not going to work. I'll tell you why. Because it's just logic, right? All right, so 9, good, right? 6.3 dot doesn't work. Clear. 0 dot. See? Took it away. That's not what I want. I want .30, right? What if I just type dot? That's another thing. What if I just go dot? It should be 0 dot, right? When I type dot by itself and there's already a 0, add the dot to it, right? So, suggestions. There's other ways to do this, by the way. So, think about what I'm asking. I'm pressing 0, and the result text box is already 0, right? Then what I'm actually thinking about is, hey, don't do anything. I've already got 0 there. Move on, right? But what if I press something else after than 0? Got 0, and I press a dot. Well, if it's a dot, and the thing's already 0, then append, right? Like this is okay. If it's a dot, like up here, and it's already 0, then I just want to add the dot to the 0, right? You see what I'm saying? Okay, come on, guys. I need some suggestions. I'm not going to solve this all for you. This is the stuff you're going to have to deal with when your BMI calculator. Hint, hint, it's going to happen. You're going to try and do your BMI calculator, and you're going to go, I don't know why, but it doesn't do what I wanted to do, right? And this is part of it right here, right? So what to do? How do I set this up? I want your suggestions. We've got 5 minutes left. Want me to start this over again? Want me to just like erase it and start over? Yeah. Okay. But that means both these conditions are there. This one here, this check, and this check exists in both conditions. So okay, let's try that. I'll add that in. Else if this and the calculator button dot text, and by the way, it's a different order, right? Is equal to this, right? Okay, so both those are true, right? So it's a 0, and the calculator button dot text is this. Then what do I want to do? What do I want to do here? And it's plus equals, right? I want to add it on. If it's already a 0, if the result text box is 0, but my calculator button is pressing a dot, add on the dot, right? So I'll say plus equals. Okay, cool. That's the dot. The dot problem is gone, right? The 0 button, the 0, that's gone because that replaces. That doesn't add, right? Okay. We're still got a problem. Okay, and if it's 0, then we replace like this by itself. If it's just 0, we replace, right? Oh. Here? Here? No, can't be. Right? It's got to be this. It's got to be else if, right? But, well, the way we've written it anyway. Come on, guys. This is not right. This is if my result text box dot text is equal to 0, right? I want to replace, right? So now I want to do another else statement. Just give me some space. Else, if else, if else. Oh my God, I'm dying. Otherwise, if it's something else, it's this and replace, right? Okay. A lot of silliness going on here. There's ways of simplifying. Come on, you can use, who didn't take discrete math? Someone took discrete math out there. This is all logic, right? All right, let's try this out and see what happens. So let's check this out. See if you're right, right? So if I press dot, that's good. 3 dot, okay, we're good. That worked. Okay, how about 9 dot 3 0 dot 3? That's good. We're almost there. We just need to simplify now, right? 0 dot 0 dot 0 6. Yeah, good. We're good. That's good logic. Thank you, my friend. But this needs to be simplified. How do we simplify this mess? Because this is a mess. So think about this, what we're saying. Let's suppose we assign some values to calculator button dot text. And this is the A condition. So if A, right, is true, is equal to 0, right? Calculator button dot text is equal to 0 is equal to A, right? And result text box dot text is equal to B. So if A and B, then do this. Okay, else if A, because again we have A over here. Where is it? Calculator button dot text? No, we don't have that. We have if B, right? This is B, and C, then do this. Okay, if B then C, then do this. And now this one, if B. We've been checking A and B a bunch of times. Look, 1, 2, 3. All of those conditions are the same. What can we do to simplify? B is always true, right? To make that happen, result text box.text is equal to 0 every single time, right? For all of these 3 conditions. Therefore, we can write it like this. We can write this part like this. So this is true. So this is the outlying if statement, right? Because this is always going to be true. Then we check to see these other conditions. So this is B, right? But this is A. So if this is true and if this is true, I'll fix it in a second. This is the outer condition, right? If this is true and this is true, right? Just like writing this, then do this. Right? Makes sense? But it doesn't matter if it's this or this. Result text box.text alone. Look, result text box.text alone. Both these two, right? Calculated text box.text is equal to 0, or result text box.text is equal to 0 by itself. It's going to happen. Make sense? Look, that's what we wrote. Right? If result text box.text equal to 0, result text box.text equals 0, right? So by itself, without anything here, calculated text box.text equal to 0, it doesn't matter, right? If it's 0, then we replace, right? But if it's this, we don't replace, right? We add, right? Because we replace. So either one of these, if it's this or this, right? We just can take this out. Because if it's a 0, we don't care. Okay? The only time we want to not do this, right, is because this one does it no matter what happens. This one here, this result, is gone, right? Because it always happens in that scenario. Okay, so we killed that one. We can always go back. Don't worry, we can always undo if we mess this up, which I might, because I'm tired, right? And I'm live, which is always more difficult. Okay, this one, right? This one we did already. This one's the first one, so we did. This one's gone, right? Now this one, result text box is 0, and calculated text box is this. This is another condition, right? So this is in here, and that's a different thing. Undo. Here's my mouse, my trackpad. This is a special condition that does this. Okay. Makes sense? So now we can get rid of this. Oops. Now, otherwise, is this going to work? Are we still missing something?
The first line is a text. No, yeah. Put that in else. I think.
In an else?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see what this does first. So the 0 is the problem. So what if my calculator button.text is equal to 0, right? If my calculator button.text is equal to 0, and this is true, right? Then it's going to just replace. Once the 0 is there, it's going to replace, which is what's okay. It's okay what I want, right? But if it's not equal to 0, then it's going to add. Let's try this out before we put that line that you said, and then we're done for the day. I apologize for the long one. 9, replace. 6, blah 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 blah. Right? Clear. 0 dot. Oh. What happened there? Look at that. It's almost like I got a double dot happening right there. Never had that before. How the heck did that happen? Well, this is good, right? This is good. It came by here. Is decimal clicked is equal to true. We have a decimal now in this particular case. So maybe what we do is we take this line here, like you said, and put it down here. So if it's a decimal, then plus equals, right? But then we're going to equal it again. That's not good. We can't do both, right? So it's either one or the other, right? So let's put the else, like you said. Right? Would you be happy with that? No? Remember, we're trying to simplify. There was too many if else ifs, right? This way there's less. And whenever there's less branching, it's faster, right? Now this is a small piece of code, but it doesn't matter, right? When you get to a large piece of code, it becomes more complex, and this is more intuitive, right, than the way we wrote it before. Well, let's say if it works, it'll be more intuitive, right? 9.3, okay, cool. 0.03, cool. Dot 2, cool. See? Okay, we avoided that one. So it sounds like a little bit of rigmarole, but you can see that, and I'm going to end with this note. One of the challenges we always have is, we think it's easy to make some simple application like a calculator, but actually it's the details. It's making your calculator, your application appear like an actual real world device, right? Whether it's on your phone or an actual calculator, right? It's the implementation, getting it perfect. This is user validation, right? This is making sure that you can control what the user inputs and that whatever they input makes sense. We got a lot more to go. We're going to do that on Thursday, right? So be prepared. There's going to be a piece of the calculator that you're going to be finishing for Thursday. That's going to be your lab, right? Something that's missing, right? And I want you guys to be, again, I'll be doing on Friday, but that's what we're going to be doing for the remainder of the week. Again, just a reminder, next week on Tuesday, your assignment number 5 is due. So please, if you haven't started, which is crazy, means you haven't done your lab either, get going on it because you don't have a lot of time and it's worth 10% of your final grade, plus a bunch of bonus marks for those people who forgot to hand in assignment number 1 or 2 or 3. It gives you an opportunity to kind of make up that. Okay, guys, thank you so much. That's it for me for today. I'll share this up on GitHub in a second, but we'll see you on Thursday.